Welcome to the first session of the closing training for the National Press Foundation Widening the Pipeline Fellowship. We're gathered here in DC over the next few days to, I think, leverage the information and the mentoring and the training that we have received over the past year. We're going to have some high-level conversations that I hope will send you off into your careers with a different perspective and a better focus and vision for what is possible. Each of our sessions are designed to help you really drill down on a particular topic and to really get the most out of it. And so for our first session this morning, we're going to focus on misinformation. It's something that no matter what department in a newsroom that we are working in, we have to be concerned about it because we're all vulnerable to possibly facing misinformation. So we're privileged to have as our first speaker this morning, Alex Mahadevan. He is the director of the MediaWise project at the Poynter Institute in St. Petersburg, Florida. So Alex, welcome, and we're so grateful that you could join us this morning.
Yeah, hello everyone. Just a heads up, if you have a question, you'll probably have to shout very loudly because I cannot hear anything that's not coming directly into that mic. So as we go through the presentation, please just, I guess, raise your hand and ask for the mic.
Let me jump in before you get started, Alex, because I think it'd be so helpful if you would explain what the MediaWise project is before you jump into your presentation.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do get to that, but I'll start with that. So I'm Alex Mahadevan. The MediaWise project is a digital media literacy program based out of the Poynter Institute. We started in 2019, right around that time frame. And our goal is to teach anyone. We have programs for essentially anyone across the world to be able to spot misinformation on their own. And we teach media literacy through the lens of fact checking. So us and the Stanford History Education Group, we put together a study back in 2016, 2017, trying to figure out why fact checkers were so good at spotting misinformation, and the MediaWise program came out of that. So I'm going to go into I'm going to jump right into this because I've got a lot of stuff to cover, and I think we're tight on time. So before we get started, who saw this photo this weekend? You can shout out. I don't know. I can't really hear anything, but this photo went around quite a bit this weekend. It is the Pope wearing what looks like a Balenciaga puffer. Really, pretty believable. When I first saw that, I kind of scrolled right by and figured, oh, that's just the Pope wearing, something pretty ridiculous because, the Pope wears a lot of pretty ridiculous stuff. And I've seen a lot of polls going around thinking that image was legitimate. That was the Pope walking around in a Balenciaga puffer, but it actually was not. It was created with Midjourney, which is a generative AI program that creates essentially images out of thin air based on data that's been trained. I'm sure you've heard the buzz about this. Not sure if you saw any of these images, but this is really the kind of next gen of misinformation that you're going to see. And basically, with a few commands that you see in this tweet on the right here, you could create your own Pope in a puffer jacket using Midjourney. And it was pretty surprising. Like half of people in a lot of polls thought that this was real, because I think a lot of people just kind of see something online and they scroll right through it. And I think you're going to be hit with a lot of this throughout your career. But it's not all fun and games with the Pope and stuff like that. It is dead serious. So misinformation about, the great lie about elections not being secure or election fraud have led to voter intimidation, like we see here. And essentially, sheriffs across the U.S. having to step up security around ballot drop boxes because people were showing up with assault rifles trying to make sure no quote unquote election fraud happened, even though it was all based on misinformation. So this stuff really touches every beat. And I hope when we get through this presentation that you can have a leg up on how to go about reporting on misinformation, how to spot misinformation, what misinformation is. Essentially, what I hope you're able to do is go into your newsroom or wherever you're based at your publisher and be able to stand out, because you will be at the cutting edge of identifying this stuff that is going to, it will affect every beat. It will affect every part of the newsroom. And it is not going away, and it will only get worse, as we saw it with these Pope pictures that just look so legitimate. And I am not joking. I fell for that Pope picture. So I did my intro. About me, though, I originally went to school for economics, but I became a journalist because there was only a journalism job available when I got out of college into the Great Recession. There were no bank jobs or anything available. So I became a journalist, and I fell in love with it. As you can see, I kind of worked all around the newsroom, and this goes to show that, no matter where you start, you too can someday get punched in the face by a Golden Gloves boxer if you so choose in this line of work. But I'm a lot happier today not doing this kind of stuff for a living, and really hyper focused on teaching people how to spot misinformation. And I've done a lot of this teaching for journalists too. So it's not just for the general public, because, as I will keep saying, this stuff is will affect you. Absolutely. Important distinction here. There is disinformation, which is something that's false, that is shared on purpose. And then there's misinformation, which is the umbrella term. Anything fake online, you refer to as misinformation. Throughout your career as a journalist, you are likely going to be using the word misinformation much more than disinformation, because disinformation, it implies intent. And as you all know, hopefully, that it is very difficult to publish someone's intent specifically. The bar is very high for being able to use the term disinformation. So unless you are specifically talking about state-sanctioned propaganda or something like that, generally you're going to use the term misinformation rather than disinformation. It helps to know why people share this stuff. The Balenciaga Pope thing, why are people sharing this stuff online? And really the main thing, so think back to that example about election fraud. People aren't necessarily, again, back to intent, normal people, the people you see, walking through the streets today, like on your way to the building today, they do not share misinformation because they want to hurt people. They do it because they want to help people. So my aunt might share something about election fraud misinformation because she legitimately feels worried about it and legitimately wants people to make sure their elections are safe, no matter how false it is. So mainly people want to help. They have an emotional connection or emotional reaction when they consume something online. I mean, to be quite honest, when I saw the Pope puffer jacket, I didn't really feel anything. I didn't share it or like it or anything or engage with it. But I think a lot of people probably laughed at it and, thought it was funny and shared it for that reason. This is one we see a lot, the pressure to comment on breaking news. Everybody wants to get in on what is happening. So honestly, probably a lot of people shared that Pope puffer jacket because they were like, wow, look at this. Look at what's happening. I have to satiate my followers by commenting on breaking news. And really, as you are all aware, there is too much information. I am someone who immediately, the first thing I do when I wake up is I open Twitter. And if you are reading and consuming that much information throughout the day, you will see a great deal of misinformation. And eventually, not you after this, but your friends and family may share it. Disinformation, so the intent behind creating falsehoods deliberately to spread them, build followers. Really, one of the biggest things is just people lying online so they can build followers. And that is one of the biggest things that we have seen is not necessarily ill content, but because they want to increase the number of the amount of engagement that they have. Disrupts democracy. This is one we saw big in 2016, 2018, and 2020. There are a great deal of countries that create a great deal of disinformation aimed at disrupting elections, whether that is fake Facebook profile sharing memes to actually hacking into. There were reports that Iran was trying to, and had almost successfully gotten into the CMS of the Washington Post. So it really ranges that wide on the disinformation front. Politics, yeah. I think the original type of disinformation from back in the day was around politics, and then above all, to make money. I mean, I think right now you've probably gotten a text message, if not today, probably yesterday, with some sort of scam that is trying to get you for money. Hi, how are you? That's the text message that you'll usually get. So how does it look? How do we see misinformation in the wild right now? Generative AI is it, and it is what you will read about. It is what your colleagues will talk about. It is a way you can impress the kind of old white men publishers. When you go in to do your next big interview, they'll be like, what the hell is AI? You'll be able to talk eloquently about it. Essentially, it is a computer program that is built on top of algorithms that can create anything out of thin air. So this is something I created in 2 minutes. Actually, while I was in an interview, I created this in 2 minutes. The mouth is a little bit messed up, but that is Joe Biden about to do a keg stand. That is some free software I use called Midjourney. And in Midjourney, you can create images. ChatGPT is one that I'll get into in a second, where you can create lots of text, but you can also create audio and deep fakes, like our famous Keanu Reeves deepfake. And I was running far away. Sorry about that. Off the wall someday, nobody knows, nobody. So generative AI really is the next generation in misinformation, because people can create anything out of nowhere. Now it's come a little while. It's come quite a bit far over the last year. You can see this is a hyper realistic Shrek in a 7-Eleven that I created using DALL-E, DALLE. That is kind of one of the original image generators. The rock hiding in rocks. So a lot of this stuff is pretty goofy, but you could see, again, to take it back to the Pope, how quickly this stuff is getting more realistic. Now, the most dangerous thing probably about generative AI is the creation of false personas online. Now, that can be for anything like, troll brigading, or, message amplification, or fake news. So this is what is called a pink slime news outlet called the Idaho Tribune. This is an article saying the Satanic Temple has announced attendance at Pride in the Park. Now, this is a false story. The image is a little ridiculous, but there are plenty of people who would see a link posted and immediately believe it. And why? Because it has bylines. It has bios. It has an about me page. This has essentially, the Idaho Tribune has everything that 3 years ago, anyone in media literacy would be teaching you. Oh, this is what makes a legitimate news outlet. Bylines and pictures of journalists. Now, the problem is that is the journalist. This person that was created out of nowhere is the journalist involved in this. So recently I did an experiment in which I created a completely fake news outlet using ChatGPT. And I did so in about 20 minutes. I created a newspaper masthead full of reporters, editors, photogs, an editor-in-chief. I gave it a name, obviously. I even came up with a logo for it. And I asked it to generate code so I could put the news outlet online, and it spit out some HTML as well as some JavaScript, so I could actually create an interactive website for what I was calling the Suncoast Sentinel. I also generated some articles accusing the mayor of a no-bid procurement scheme, etc. So you can see how quickly and easily people can create this kind of harmful pink slime. Now, if you haven't heard of pink slime news sites, they've been in the news, in and out. They've been used. They've really always been used since the beginning of the internet to mimic news outlets. But right now, you can see with like ChatGPT and Midjourney, it's getting a lot easier to develop these sites. They are sites that are basically very cheaply made. So they're run basically on algorithmic content that is spit out or data that has been scraped. And they're filled with mostly fake articles. If, they're only going for, they might only be going for ad revenue. So it's a fake site that's just set up to suck ad revenue out, get people to click, see stories, randomly generated about like a basketball player cheating on his wife or something like that. But the most dangerous thing are these pink news outlets that have these biased articles. Now, there are pink news sites that are run by Chevron, for example, that share stories about climate change and what oil companies are doing to stop climate change. Obviously, you can imagine there'd be a certain bias there. There are news sites that have been launched by public relations firms, lots of them. In the state of Florida, where I am based in St. Petersburg, the state of Florida, Florida Power and Light, which is a very powerful electric company here, has created networks of pink slime news outlets to malign politicians. So really, one of the scariest types of misinformation that I have seen is the development of these pink slime news outlets. And they, what their power comes from is, as I assume you all are very well aware with, the void in local news and basically what is happening in local news. They disappear, pink slime networks come in and they take over. So this is an example of a pink slime outlet. It looks harmless, right? Alaska Business Daily, the thing with pink slime is a majority of the stories are going to be very, 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 very boring. But with this one, I was able to look at the code behind it and look at their analytics tags and track down 44 different websites that were all operating as part of this pink slime network. And essentially what they were doing is they were selling political ads. They were doing a lot of nefarious things, and it looked really harmless. Next up, one of the biggest types of misinformation you will see are videos, like real videos that have just been edited or taken out of context.
You think it's inappropriate? I'm not going to take any questions because you think it's inappropriate. I'm not going to take any questions.
So that is a video that went quite viral on Twitter of Biden saying he's not going to take any questions because it would be inappropriate. It's a real video, right? That's not a deep fake. That's actually Biden saying that. But there's more to the story.
Thank you all so very, very much for being here. And I'm not going to take any questions because I think it's inappropriate to take questions with the justice here. He's still sitting on the bench, but you'll have plenty of opportunities to get me later today and for the rest of the week.
Yeah. So say what you will about the Biden administration and how it deals with the press lately. Not terribly, not great. But that was a totally real video. And it kind of demonstrates the idea of this, of cheap fakes. Now, I wouldn't call this a cheap fake necessarily, but cheap fakes are real video that has been very, very cheaply edited. So you may all remember the Nancy Pelosi drunk video where someone slowed down her, the video so it looked like she was drunk. That was an example of a cheap fake. So cut up videos like this can kind of fall into that category. But really what this demonstrates is the scary thing isn't, AI you got to watch out for. And I know I led with it, but still the easiest thing to deceive people is just going to be out of context videos. Cross-posted content. This is the biggest thing that I see lately that fools quite a lot of people, and we don't see the fake tweets as much anymore. But what it was very easy to do is create a fake tweet, screenshot it, and then share it on another platform. And then people wouldn't be able to trace whether it is, real or not. And it fooled a lot of people. And, this is just an example from Donald Trump, but AOC is a major target of this. Almost every other day I was like logging into Facebook on one of my burner accounts and seeing a fake AOC tweet that someone had simply screenshotted and shared. We see this a lot with Truth Social too. So I don't know if anyone is on Truth Social, but basically people are able to very easily make a fake Truth Social post. That is Donald Trump's, like, his social media platform or whatever. He says a lot of really wild stuff on there. So, I mean, it's not too wild what we see come out of there. And then lastly, what you see a lot is the recycling of misinformation narratives, content, images, etc. So if you get really familiar with the narratives of misinformation in your area or on your beat, you will always have a leg up. So, for example, I know whenever a celebrity dies, that the next morning there will be a ton of posts to fact check about that celebrity dying. I know Gabby, who is in there, knows this very, 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 very well, that is something you see. I know if a hurricane comes through Texas or Florida or South Carolina or whatever, I will see an image of a shark swimming on a freeway saying that this is a shark swimming on a freeway in XYZ city. So I've gotten used to these. These are called zombie claims because no matter how many times you fact check them, they will absolutely reappear. I like to throw this in just to kind of show you, those of you who may go into local news, there is a lot of misinformation at the local level, especially here in Florida. We've seen vaccines in schools, masks issues, the LGBTQ panic, 5G, but it goes beyond, the main national topics, because there is plenty of misinformation about infrastructure and taxes. You should watch every press release that comes out of your police department or sheriff's office. And then elections. Your local elections will absolutely be targeted by mis and disinformation. Again, so if you have a question, please do not hesitate to jump in, because the way I'm just going to kind of roll through this and try to give you lots and lots of tools to be able to spot misinformation, but happy to stop, start, whatever. So moving on, now that you kind of have an idea of the types of misinformation that you see out there, everything from generative AI to pink slime to, these zombie claims, what is the best way to structure your reporting around it? Now, I usually teach this to regular people, but this is the best way to structure how you are reporting about any type of misinformation online. It is based on how fact checkers do their jobs. So it sounds familiar to you. It might seem like a no-brainer, but for me personally, even as someone who spent, a while working in the news before I came to Poynter, it's still really helpful to structure stories like this when I'm working on anything. I mean, when I work on a story about something happening in AI, I will structure it exactly like this. Okay, so guess there are questions. I just got a Slack from Gabby.
All right. Many nonprofit news outlets like mine publish under Creative Commons that could hypothetically be republished by these fake news sites. How do we protect against that, and how do we make sure that we're looking out for that?
That is a good question. That is not something that I have done a lot of research or study on. I'm trying to think. I mean, before I came to this job, I was at a place called the Penny Hoarder, which is I was a data journalist there. It's a personal finance website, and they publish things like, how to do, some sort of XYZ budget. And they got scraped all the time by these sites, but they were not, covered. So they would basically reach out and file a copyright claim. So that is a good question. I unfortunately don't have a great answer for that.
Hi, my name is Crystal Nurse. I'm a reporter from the Lansing State Journal. It's part of the USA Today network. What I wanted to know, because you spoke about a lot of these fake news websites that come out of a lot of the news deserts and the whole closure of local news. I wanted to know, you showed it a little bit briefly, but how could we spot through like the HTML code or the JavaScript code as to like to see how a site is fake or if it's real? Because I think you showed it briefly, but I want to know if that's like a standard in a lot of these fake sites, or if there's another way for us to know that like this site is fake, especially as you said, it's coming into a place that is dry of local news and doesn't have like a reliable source of local news.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of these really, it's really about shoe leather reporting. So, looking for like if you can find a business name that is like, I can't scroll this, but if you went down to the bottom of this page, if you could find like a business name and run it through like whatever your state's business database is. So in Florida, we have something called Sunbiz. I would put it in Sunbiz. I'd be able to find out the name, whoever owns it or runs it. That's usually how you can find it. Like the Chevron one, they actually say, it's published by Chevron. For FPL, you would have to go through a series of shell companies and just track down who owns that business, and then you can just do some searches on that name, find out who they're associated with. Open corporates, which actually I have a screenshot from open corporates later. You can find the connection of different businesses that are associated with this. Just calling any people who are associated with it, running any email addresses that you find through Google, literally just seeing if they are forums or anything like that. It's a lot of the reporting. This specific example, I actually took out some, we're on a time crunch, but there is this site called, I think it's called DNS Lytics. I'm full screen right now, so I can't see, but it's a site that basically lets you Google the Google Analytics code and find other websites that are using the same Google Analytics code, because that is how you are able to find that. So if you go to view page source and you just search for Control F UA, right there you can see, I don't know how big the screen is, but I will share these slides, by the way, with everyone. So you can have all this. You can actually find the Google Analytics code and then just plug it into this thing called DNS Lytics, and it'll show you all of the different domains that are using it. So look at this one, CA Business Daily, probably, like a California, wannabe paper. So there's a lot of ways. Like this is a very, more of an intense way to uncover a network, but really it comes back to kind of just like shoe leather reporting, in that reporting process. And the cool thing about that is if you discover one of these sites, that is, you could knock out a really awesome feature story, just kind of highlighting your search and the transparency of your reporting on the subject. So there's no surefire way of identifying a fake news site, and unfortunately, you won't know it when you see it. But if you start doing some reporting, generally you'll find out pretty quickly. Continue. Okay. Yeah. So basically, the way I structure, and okay, so let's use the pink news slide. The pink slime news site as an example. So I start with who is behind the information, and that might be tracking down the owner. It might be so you can look at the page source and also find hidden email addresses in the page source. So I always try to teach. I could do an entire hour on looking at the data behind a website, but if you're trying to find out who is running a website, you can usually look at the page source and Google the little @ symbol and find email addresses that they've tried to hide in the code. You know what I mean? So who is behind the information? Find out who's running the site. What is the evidence? That's looking at the actual kind of content or data or quotes or anything that they are sharing and evaluating what it looks like, the validity, whether it's research, whether it's data, whether it's quotes, etc., and what do other sources say. Constantly be evaluating. Like a lot of these pink news sites, sometimes they'll get reported on by a very small outlet. And but it just doesn't go anywhere. So these three questions are kind of what guide the process that I teach to anyone, really. And it really, for me, it helps me organize my digital investigations when I'm doing something. Sometimes I might spend a lot more time on question one, because maybe question two doesn't matter. Maybe I'm just looking at trying to find out who's behind the information. But ultimately, it's, falling down the rabbit hole. Analyzing images and video. So like I said, images, video, those are kind of the biggest forms of misinformation that you'll see on really any beat. So this is an example. This is a rep from North Carolina named Ricky Hurtado. And so this was a mailer that was actually sent out. It was posted online, but it was also a mailer that was literally sent to people. And he's wearing a shirt that says "Defund the Police." Now, the problem is that is not the shirt that he was wearing. He was wearing a shirt that has his name on it. And he was also picking up trash, whereas this one, they kind of crop out the trash. So they trash in here. Now, this is just an example of kind of manipulated images you might see on your everyday beat. Now, I'm wondering how many in there are familiar with reverse image searching. Maybe you can raise your hands and then Gabby can Slack me and I'll see it on my watch. I don't know. How many of you have used reverse image searching? It is a very, very easy, good way to track down the original source of an image. And you use reverse image searching, which is basically plugging an image into the internet and using our favorite algorithms to search for other images that are exactly the same or extremely similar. Five actually. Okay. So not a whole lot. But basically you're trying to answer these questions. These are the most important questions that you will see when you're evaluating images and video online. Are you looking at the original piece of content? Who captured the content? Is this an original image and who captured it? Those two questions. When was the content captured? The date, the time, location, where exactly was the content captured? And most importantly, intent or motivation. You may not be able to answer that final question, as I alluded to at the very beginning of the presentation. But whenever you're evaluating images or video or online, or even, pink slime news sites or anything, these are 5 questions that guide me when I'm trying to do some deep research. There are a few different types. There are a few different programs for reverse image searching, and I apologize. I'm getting messages from 2 people actually who I work with who are in the room right now. So I am just trying to make sure that I answer any questions that I can. So Google is really the main one that I use for reverse image searching and that a lot of people use for it because it's really, really good at identifying structures, places, logos. Structures, places, logos. Think about when you are looking for a logo for a pink slime site that you're investigating. You can Google the logo and maybe find out the company that has been pushing that. So I use it a lot when I see okay, there's an explosion and an airport. I might Google a logo of a plane at that airport to find out what airlines are located there. And it might be a very obscure airline that helps me identify exactly where that bomb went off. But faces, Google is, it's neutral. It's not incredibly good at capturing faces. Yandex is just another tool for this. Bing, this is an older chart. Bing is actually extremely good at reverse image searching now. I use Bing all the time. It's funny, when I first started teaching older adult literacy in 2020, they all used Bing, and I used to I used to laugh about it, but now I use Bing probably more than I use Google. And then TinEye. TinEye is another one that helps you find that's really good at finding changes to images and stuff that has been kind of altered or flipped or anything. So reverse image searching can also help you find images that have been altered. So this is an image that has been altered. Drop it into Google Images. It does a search for every time that this image has popped up, and you can see these articles are from 2017. So this image of the shark swimming on the highway has been going around for quite a while. And if you dug even deeper, it is an altered image. The shark was kind of dropped into an image of a flooded highway. But the best verification tool that I use and all professional fact checkers use is something called InVid. It's by We Verify. Again, I'll share these slides so you can download this stuff. But this is something that allows you to search for videos, images very quickly. And if you look in the bottom right of your screen, InVid is a Chrome plugin. So if I right click on an image, it gives me a selection of any of the search engines that I want to use to reverse image search. It could also be all of them. So like I could do concurrent searches for that shark image on Google, Yandex, Bing, Tinai, Baidu, which is the Chinese version, and then Reddit. All of those at one time. So you're talking about you want to track down that original picture, this original picture here. You do a search across 6 search engines, you're gonna find something. And if you don't find something, you might be looking at the original piece of content. You do some reporting and find out more. So this is an example of using it for video, though.
Worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. The order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
So our individual rights must be surrendered to an all-powerful sovereign. That's what Obama allegedly said here. But like we said, with any content you see online, you're going to want to evaluate it. And using InVid is very quick and easy to do. And this will give you absolutely a leg up on anyone you are either interviewing against, a story you're chasing down, anything. Being able to use a tool like this extremely quickly is really, really great. So all it is you click into your Chrome extensions, you go to InVid, you open this toolbox, and I can't teach this all in one training, but you can really pick this up quickly by just playing around with it. You go to video analysis, drop in. This was just a tweet. So I was able to just drop in the link to the tweet with the video. And it shows you replies that mention whether or not something is fake. A lot of times people have already debunked things in the comments. If you are TikTok users and you know this, TikTok is very good at commenters are very good on TikTok of debunking videos very, very quickly. So it will actually pull up all of the comments on the videos that reference it being fake, verified, debunked, et cetera, et cetera. But it also will run a reverse image search for still images from that video. So what I was able to find is the original source of the video, which is our friends at C-SPAN. Perfect timing. So I was actually able to find this original speech from C-SPAN. It is actually a joke.
Often this alternative.
Well, there's more context to it, but it is a joke. Obama was joking when he was talking about the all-powerful sovereign, and there is laughter, and he does his like classic Obama joke smile. So what you saw was a real video that was clipped out of content that in a few minutes, I was able to track down the original source, the provenance of that image, the location, the time. I was able to answer all of those questions, which are here. I was able to answer all those questions with a really great Chrome extension in probably about 5 minutes, and got the chance to, look at C-SPAN really quick. I want to talk about geolocation. Can anyone, from looking at this image, identify where I am in the world? If you can, I will Venmo you 50 cents.
We've heard Costco or Sam's Club.
Good. Both great hot dogs. They have great hot. So you are doing the smart thing right now. You're analyzing this image and you are noticing something. Obviously, the hot dog is important because I am taking a picture. Well, someone is taking a picture of me eating a hot dog. So obviously, there's something to be said about the hot dogs in this. So I am using some reverse image search tools, able to track down exactly where I'm in the world. Obviously, I know where I am in the world, but anyone could track down exactly the spot I was standing in the world, the latitude and longitude, by looking at this picture and using some reverse image searching. Now, this picture, I've never posted it online, so you can't use like your traditional reverse image search. It's not going to pull up, photo gallery or anything that shows. But I can use Bing and a little bit of kind of verification intuition to track down exactly where I was. So I plug the image into Bing. I narrowed it down to the hot dog. So this hot dog looks interesting, right? You ever seen this sort of brown and white sauce on a hot dog? Something is going on here. So I did a reverse image search on the hot dog and found out that this is an Icelandic hot dog, something that is very unique to Iceland, this type of hot dog. Not only the meat, but also the way it's prepared. And also it's extremely cheap. If you were ever traveling to Iceland, you can live off of gas station hot dogs. I know this from experience, gas station hot dogs for the entire time you were there and save a lot of money. So I knew I was taking a picture of myself eating a hot dog. The next verification intuition I would kind of use is, well, obviously I was probably in a place that's famous for hot dogs in Iceland, right? So I tracked down this place. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it yet again, but I found this place. I looked at some images, and then I was able to compare, what it looks like. What it looks like here. You see, there's a little a picnic bench. There is a red table that I'm standing at. Even the Coke is going to be important. So I was able to look through these images and I found the exact location where I was standing with that hot dog. And it's right on the other side of this table that this gentleman is at. Look, you can even see like the same type of Coke cup. So this is an example of kind of combining shoe leather, I guess not necessarily shoe leather, kind of like your traditional, I keep calling it verification intuition, and I was able to locate the exact location where I was at. Now, this is something called geolocation, and I kind of hinted at it earlier when I talked about the different logos that I might be Googling at an airport if there's some sort of explosion or something, and I'm trying to verify what is happening in a place. Whether I am trying to determine if an image is really from where it says it is. Remember, answering those questions for the images is very important. Location is one of those questions. This helps you answer that. I am going to, so I end with some just like kind of random tools that you can use. I'm going to go through them kind of quickly because I want to leave a few minutes for questions. But I just want to leave you with like this tapas of verification tools that I use and professional fact checkers use, and you can use to impress your colleagues to, again, get a leg up in this industry. This is something called Hoaxy, and it basically visualizes the spread of narratives online. So this was originally a Twitter post about a anti-vaccine protest that someone posted. So this Hoaxy does two things. It helps you visualize the spread of narratives and determine whether or not they are spread by bots. This is very cool tool. So all you do is plug in a few. Look at this. So this is a hashtag you see a lot in anti-vax world, health freedom. I plug that into Hoaxy, and I was able to see that this is a real life happening in real life protest that was completely driven by a bot. So if something is red, if a dot is red, then it is most likely a bot. So you can see this network of misinformation that was spread, driven by bots online, that resulted in like a real life protest against vaccine mandates. So that's a very fun tool that you can play around with. finding people on social media and following them across social media. Another very cool way to write stories, digital investigations, everything. So this is something called What's My Name, and What's My Name.app. It was originally, this kind of tool was originally for people who were looking to, they were looking to get their username on new platforms. So they would check new platforms to see, is my username available? The other thing to remember is if you have someone's username, you can likely follow them across anywhere in the internet. People always use the same username. 99% of the time they use the same username. So if you find someone's username when you're doing digital investigations, you can unlock a massive amount of stories and information about them. So I use What's My Name.app. And if you plug in a username, you can basically see all of the different platforms where that user exists. So you can see I am on Clubhouse, I am on Parler for work, Parler, Twitter. I was actually able to find my, GitHub. So you're able to see like any of the code that I've written through this. You can plug that name into open corporates and find, a production company I started with my brothers 14 years ago. And so following people across social media is something easy. It's a way to answer that first question. And I'm going to end it there. You may be familiar with Wayback Machine, but this is another tool that I use quite a bit. It is an archive of billions and billions and billions of web pages. This will help you keep politicians honest because you can look at their original platform compared to what they may have changed their website. So Wayback Machine is used for a couple of things. One, I know like PolitiFact and Gabby use it to archive posts. So when someone takes down a Facebook post, you can still report on it. It's also used to track changes in web pages, how things used to be online. It's a very interesting place and very interesting tool to play around with. And there's even a Chrome plugin for it called Web Archives that you can right click on something and it'll pull up the web archive of anything. I want to end with some kind of big picture philosophical thoughts on the future of misinformation. So this weekend, we had the AI Balenciaga Pope that was trending. Now, that was the picture of the Pope in his puffer that looked real. A lot of people retweeted it. Myself, I just scrolled by it and I was like, wow, the Pope he's looking good. That is, great fit. Is that what the kids are saying? So that was me not being very skeptical of images I see. On the other side of things, you had another story that was percolating this weekend, and that was that John Fetterman was dead, and he was being he has a body double in his place, and it's based on a real image. That is a real image of Fetterman on the right. If you are not familiar with Cat Turd, he is someone who's driving almost all of the right's platform, it seems, right now, a person named Cat Turd. So that was a real image of Fetterman on the right, another real image of Fetterman on the left. Now, if I were to teach you as journalists, you should be skeptical of every image. You might be looking at that image of Fetterman and do some deep research and be like, holy, this does not look right. There's something wrong here. Now, that's what a lot of these conspiracy theorists did. They looked deeply at this image. They were like, that is not him. It looks nothing like him. His face is too skinny. Ultimately, for any folks who work on the photo side of things, that depending on the different lens, a person's face can be shaped a different way. So, and this is also a very old picture of Fetterman as well. So it wouldn't have been a body double based on him dying recently because it's from 2022. So this is something that you'll need to find a good balance for in your career, is balancing that healthy dose of skepticism without going too far down the rabbit hole. And you will also be fielding questions from your readers who have this same internal struggle. The rise of AI is also going to give rise to something that has been called the liar's dividend. Now, the liar's dividend, it is the concept that now with AI being so advanced, anyone can essentially claim that what they said was actually a deep fake, whether it's audio, whether it's an image of them doing something that they shouldn't have been doing or saying something that they shouldn't have been saying. They can claim that was a deep fake. Now, this is from this is from a little while ago. This is late 2022, and Roger Stone says a video of him calling for violence is actually a deep fake. So these are two questions that are constantly in my head. I'm constantly thinking about, and will be kind of something that we will all be grappling with in the future. So I know I cut really deep into your break, and I also went quite fast, but I have plenty of time. If we want to have any questions, I am free. Let me know.
Only, unfortunately, I have time for a couple of questions because we don't want to penalize.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Alex. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Amazing. My name's Amanda Goki. I am a reporter covering New Hampshire for the Boston Globe. I was just wondering, so up in New Hampshire, there's a lot of debates around 5G, and that was something you mentioned early on. It's not something I've spent a great deal of time looking into, but I was just curious if you could share a little bit more about the misinformation on that topic.
So that is a really good question. So essentially, a lot of let me talk about an example here. So just south of here, Sarasota, the school board has essentially been hijacked by far-right activists. Now, a lot of municipalities around the country are upgrading cell towers to 5G because 5G is a more powerful cell signal. It gets it can level the playing field for people who may not be able to afford like in-home Wi-Fi. So 5G is legitimately a good infrastructure upgrade. Now, because misinformation going around online is essentially saying 5G will change your DNA, it has an effect on you. The Sarasota County School Board actually stopped the upgrade of 5G because people were showing up to the school board saying, I don't trust 5G. There's articles I see online saying that 5G will change my DNA, or it will effectively control me because the vaccine has put a chip in my head. 5G is the next step. So basically, 5G fits into this giant new world order narrative. So anyone who spends a lot of time reading far-right content, they do not trust vaccines and they do not trust 5G. Now, part of that is just kind of our general uncomfortability with new things and new science. So I think, and I mean, there actually isn't a whole ton of research about what cell phones do to you. So I think people generally want to have some sort of control over their lives. And I think when it comes to new technology, they can be scared of it. So I think the way to address that is to talk to lots of telecommunication experts, try to lay things out in articles as simply as you possibly can. Try to be an effective science communicator, and also debunk these narratives as you go through and you're writing about this. So speaker X says Y, Z is why this is not incorrect according to this telecommunications expert. So it is, you have to do a mix of debunking and basically science communication.
One more question. I'll go to the other side. Sorry.
Hi, Alex. My name is Janvi, and I'm a social news gathering reporter at NBC News. So our team is a global team that verifies and geolocates photos, videos, social media profiles. And when I was in grad school, actually, I did a lot of research on the fact-checking landscape and misinformation and how fact-checkers across the world faced a lot of mental health trauma from viewing a lot of violent content. That was the common theme that I found. And when you started your presentation, you talked about how misinformation is a beat that covers all topics, especially as we progress in a more technologically driven world. You see mis and disinformation everywhere across every beat. So this is something that we're all going to kind of face if we aren't already. And my question is for me, we have a lot of resources. I work for a big company where we get free therapy sessions, like we have, the mechanisms in place for support and to like take time off to like talk about our feelings and stuff. But, when you are looking at a smaller organization, when, resources are often stretched, like you don't really have that luxury. So what are some strategies that you think that we can, be proactive about protecting ourselves when we kind of are exposed to this kind of work?
Yeah, so there's a concept called critical ignoring, which was just coined by the Stanford History Education Group. It's for the general public, but I think it's effective for me as someone who works in the journalism field. And it's doing things like, so I mentioned earlier that I spend a lot of time on Twitter. So I was, what I try to do is I try to create as much friction as I can between myself and the misinformation when I am not at work. So I will delete the Twitter app from my phone. I will, there are like essentially, productivity apps that can block things on your phone. So, it's things like that. Being able to unplug as much as you possibly can. So I spend a lot of time running. I think there's a pretty big like journalism running community, like physical activity is something that I highly recommend to get out of your own head, and trying to talk to people as much as you can is always great. Being part of like a community. So like a community like this cohort, the ability to be able to kind of vent about the stuff you're seeing has always been very helpful for me. So I have friends who, I have a friend who works in like the city of Chicago FOIA department. He's no longer a journalist anymore, but I will like vent to him about the things I see, and he can kind of help me identify the absurdity of it. And it helps me, it kind of, it de-weaponizes it in a way. So I think making sure you're part of like different communities. So I'm like on the news nerdery Slack, I'm on the DEI Slack. And it's just nice to have a community you can talk to. If you're at a small organization, you can kind of reach out to other misinformation reporters and, talk about things.
Alex, this has been absolutely fascinating. I am so took the time out to meet with us as he slowly fades away. But thank you so much. I think what is good is that we will have access to talking to Alex, getting in touch with him. I think he will be very open to us reaching out to him. So there he is. So let's show Alex our appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.